What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to DoloresCannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS.
What's that for?
And she's going, what are these?
Because I don't think we need a lot of energy.
No, it's not. It's to handle. No, this is what's been helping equalize things. This is what's been going on behind the scenes, or grounding crystals.
Okay.
See, now you can see our little bed of stuff up here.
We can see our clock. Okay. I got so many books, I said, how are they going to put up there? That's one of the last ones, anyway.
It could be candles on a cake.
Okay. Okay, are you enjoying yourself? Do you think it's been a good conference? Good.
I want to thank you again. Oh, God, here comes the love again. Okay. Thank you again for all of you being here. It's been fantastic. This is such a homecoming. Okay, they're coming in strong.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here.
Okay. Well, you know, I've done so many lectures here and everywhere else that I decided to do this one different this time. Last year, after we were finished with the lecture, we got emails, and the one woman said, we had so many questions and we never had time to answer them. And so she said, why don't you just have your whole talk be answering questions? And I said, well, that's an idea. We can go in many different directions that way. Is there anybody here who doesn't know about my work?
These two over here.
You're kidding.
Okay. Because, you know, I started in hypnosis 45 years ago. I've been doing this a long time. Back when nobody was using hypnosis for anything, just habits and lose weight and for relaxing. That's when I started. So then I got involved in this, invented my own technique, and it's grown and grown. But I consider myself the investigator, the reporter, the researcher of lost knowledge, and that's what my books have been about. Finding things that have been lost, forgotten, buried, never known. That's my main thing that I write about now. But the main focus now is the technique, and that we have found how to heal people instantly. And that's really growing all over the world. We traveled to just about every country in the world having classes. I've now trained over 4,000 people, and I don't even know how many is online. Because we have the online class, and I don't know how many are taking it on there. But they told me I had to slow down and not make so many long flights, because those long 14-hour flights were the ones that were the hardest. So they said, no, I had to stay home and focus on other things. So they said, let technology take over, so we're focusing more on the online. And the online is being translated now into several languages. But before we get started, I do want to mention we are only going to have one live level 1 class anywhere in the world will be in September. Because I wanted to cut back on that and let it be, we're going over to online. But a lot of them say we want to take it live. This will be the only live class anywhere in the world. Be right here in this hotel in September. So if anybody's interested in signing up for it, we still have room. And we're going to have the level 2 that follows this one. We'll have a level 2 in September too, won't we? But in order to take level 2, you have to have at least 10 practices of 10 different people before you can take level 2. So if anybody's interested in this, contact somebody here. Shonda be the one to contact. Okay, but I wanted to mention that anyway. But everything is just growing and growing, and the publishing company and now the university. It's just like I look at this and I say, what have I created? Starting out when nobody knew anything about any of this. There were no metaphysics. There was no New Age. And it's been really exciting to see how times have changed, and now it's being accepted. We were always the outcasts, the ones on the fringe, working with the devil.
The witches.
Yeah. Because that went on for many years. We were like the outcasts. We were into anything spiritual or metaphysical. People didn't understand it. But now times are changing, and we can see it, and it's very exciting. I think the last 3 or 4 years, we've been traveling, I've given lectures, and the people will say, we just found out about you. We didn't even know who you were. And I said, I've been doing it 45 years. I haven't been hiding. I have 17 books out there, and they've been out there for over 30 years. I've not been hiding. But you know what it is? It's the internet. And a lot of the ones that have been coming to the lectures are these younger people. It's finally getting to them, and they understand it. They get it. The questions they ask are usually difficult questions that I would never have heard from an audience 5, 10 years ago, because they understand it and they're getting it. And I think that's really exciting. So we know things are changing. And here we're right in the forefront of the whole thing. Okay.
I just wanted to say a word there. When you were saying what you've created and how it's grown, well, what did Sherry just say in her talk? When you surrender. We surrendered a long time ago, and everything we do is completely guided. It's just, we let them tell us what to do next, and you see what's happening. That's how we do we just surrender. They're in control. They're doing it all. And you know what we mean by they. It's not, it's us. It's us. It's our higher selves. This is what we set out to do when we came in. Mm-hmm. But you just surrender to it, let it happen, and see what happens. It's fantastic to watch the creation.
There's so many of my clients, they say, well, I want to do this, but I'm afraid I'll fail. Well, you'll fail if you never try. If you don't make the attempt, you'll never know what you could have accomplished. Because I had so many obstacles to overcome. But it's how much do you really want to do something that you cannot not do it. And when I talk at writers' conferences, I say you're not a writer until you cannot not write. It becomes such a compulsion to you, you have to do it. But that's where no matter what people say, no matter what everybody's put you down, some people, their whole families don't understand them when they get over into metaphysics, and they're outcasts. But if you found your path, if you found what you really want to do, you have to do it. If you don't, you'll be miserable. You'll get sick, and you'll be miserable. So no matter what we had to overcome, we knew this was what we had to do. We just kept plodding along and plodding along. Finally, the dam broke, because it wasn't easy. We started our publishing company 22 years ago. These things were not that accepted. It took me 9 years to get my first book published because I had to wait for the rest of the world to catch up with me. Nobody... The publisher said, "What are you talking about, past lives, reincarnation?" So I went 9 years of collecting rejection slips until finally people begin to understand. So that's what you have to do. If you really want to do something and believe in it, you have to keep at it and don't give up. Like I said, you're afraid you're going to fail, but you'll fail if you never try. You'll never know what you could have accomplished. And years ago, we gave it over to them. And we don't worry about any part of it anymore, because now the next thing we need, the next thing we have to have in our business or whatever it is, I just say, "Guys, here's the next project, do it." You don't worry about how it's going to happen, where the money's going to come from. You don't worry about any of that. And believe me, in a publishing company, there's a lot of that going on. But we just put it out, and then we said, we just sit back and watch the magic. They will do things in ways you could never, ever imagine. Impossible. If we were to plan it ourselves, we could never do what they do.
And sometimes it's not even that. I mean, it's one thing to put it out there, this is what I want, but then sometimes the other thing happens is the next thing I need, I might not even know I need it yet. The next thing I need, it walks in the door. And that can be an affirmation that you say, but I just started finding it happens, so I just know it's a reality. The next thing I need, and then that helps me understand what's coming, because it's walking through the door. Oh, okay, this, like I said, when they gave me that vision, and I'm like, okay, but it's way down the road. Then things started happening. I was like, oh, maybe it's not. See, that's what's telling you. You've got to be aware of the messages when they start coming. Just keep your eyes open. Keep your ears open.
When I do lectures on creating your reality, first you got to know what you want. That's the hard part. A lot of them don't know what they want. But then they say, well, I got to figure out how I'm going to get that, step by step by step. That's not how you create your reality. You know what you want. Put it in their hands. They make it happen in ways you could never imagine. If you're saying, I have to do this and this and this to make it accomplish it, you are limiting them. This is the only way it can happen. They'll do it in ways you would never, ever believe or never could have imagined. And this is happening to us constantly now, all the time. And we're growing by leaps and bounds, and now the university is happening. I just let them do it.
We don't know how it's going to happen. Have no godly idea how. I'm telling you, we do not. People keep saying, when are you going to break ground? When's it? We do not know. We don't. It's whenever it's determined to happen, and that's okay.
But
it's
you
okay
have
to not
faith.
know.
You have to have
Okay?
faith, and you have to believe. That's what it's all about. I have a little affirmation in my office where I write over my computer, and I've had it there since day one when I was getting so discouraged I wanted to throw all the manuscripts against the wall and say it's never going to happen. It hurts too much, I've got to quit, I can't do it. I have this little affirmation over my desk, and it says, believe, achieve. Doubt, you're out. Believe, achieve, doubt, you're out.
Just know. Just trust.
And it happens. And that's where we're at. Because we have no idea where all this is going. We have so many different projects in the works that are in infant stages. And next year, it was hard to say where we're going to be, what's going to happen. I just knew they wanted us to make a space because we were busy traveling so much to leave a space to let the other projects happen. Nature abhors a vacuum. So they said we had to leave a space to let these other things come in. We were going all the time. So now these other projects will begin to come to fruition. And look how the conference has grown. Look at all the wonderful writers we have for our company. And all of it has been just hard work, slow, to get it done. And look at my classes and the miracles they're having with the technique. I mean, so I said, what have I created here? Okay, well, but I'm going to do it the way the suggestion was last year, to let you ask questions, because they said we had so many we never got a chance to ask. Now, you know, I've written 17 books, and I have a new one that's going to be coming out by the end of the year. There'll be 18 books on every phase of metaphysics there is. So if you have any questions at all on anything dealing with metaphysics or my books, Convoluted Universe series, anything like that. And I've been a UFO investigator for 27 years. I've written 4 books on that. So anything you want to ask, this is like an open mic. It's an open forum. So it's your show, and we're going to try to answer everything that comes up.
And I'm a translator.
She's my translator. Because a lot of times it's hard to hear with the microphones and the reverberation. Even in England, I need her to help translate English.
Even in America, she needs me.
So many writers.
I think it works better if you hold it away from your mouth, otherwise we do get echoing.
A number of writers and you have uncovered information about the changes that are taking place, and it's termed different things. It's termed the new Earth, the great split. You know what I'm talking about. And it's called different things. I am left with so many questions about that. I wouldn't even know how to start asking. Could you? Now this is silly, but could you summarize what that means?
It was reverberating, so I got parts of it.
You want me to
say
say it again?
I'll translate. I translate.
She's when she's here, so
That's my job. Don't do my job.
Okay. She knows the answers to a lot of the stuff too.
Yeah, but it's her lecture, not mine. So.
Well, you're going to help.
It's about the new Earth. She's talking about a lot of writers are talking about the new Earth, or they're calling it different things. The new Earth, the big split, the different things. And she's giving her more questions than answers, and she's wondering if you can summarize what all of that is.
Yeah, summarize. I wrote a whole book on it. How are you going to summarize a book?
In 10 words or less, can you know?
What in particular are you having trouble with? The whole thing, or what?
I'll repeat it.
I am interested in timing.
Oh, goodness.
The what? The timing.
And I mean, I think everybody is wondering, is it happening before I pass from this earth? You know, is it happening now? Did it already happen? Okay,
You
okay,
missed
I'll
it.
cut it down
You
to
blinked. It was already done. Sorry.
It's already happened. You're in the middle of it now. It's not going to happen down the road somewhere. People expect it to be like a big bam, all of a sudden we're there. It's not going to be that way. It's been very slow and subtle. It began around 2003, and because they said it can't happen all of a sudden. The human body couldn't take it. It would disintegrate the human body. The vibrations and frequency change would be so strong that it would destroy the people. So it had to be very slow and subtle to give your body time to adjust to the frequency changes, because your body has to shift also. It has to adjust to the frequency changes. So it's been happening very slowly and subtly. And a lot of you are experiencing physical symptoms as this happens. But 2012, you know, December the 21st, you remember that date when it was supposed to be the end of the world and all of that? We're still here.
Yeah.
On that date, we were in London. They're having a premiere of a movie I was in, and we were doing that. We were having a big a program, a celebration, and parties. And so I said, the rest of you can stay home with your head under the covers and living in fear. We're going to party. And nothing happened. But that was the accumulation of the energy. It was building and building till that date. And after that, then, it kind of levels out, I guess you would say, or what do you, go ahead.
Well, we've acclimated. A way, they're reminding me, because this is the best way that I can always tell, and you and everybody I've told this to, they get it. In order to see what's happened, you have to go backwards. So let's go. Sherry was talking about 1950. Go back to 1950. What was humanity like? Okay, and now jump forward to now. Okay, or even go back 10 years ago and then come back forward. That's when you do that and you come back, then you can see what happened. But see, we were going through it day by day by day by day. We couldn't tell. But go back and look at yourself 10, 15, 20 years ago, and then come back. Are you the same person? Are you energetically the same person? No. Is the world energetically the same world? No. There are things happening now that could not have happened back then. Absolutely could not have happened. That's the shift. That's when you know. And who else is getting all the tingles? That's the truth bumps. That is the shift.
And your body has had to adjust to it. And it's not going back because all your DNA is being changed. That's part of why people are having these physical symptoms. The new kids, what I call the third wave in my book about the three waves of volunteers, coming in with all their DNA in place. The rest of us are the ones that have to catch up. But it's all being changed to adapt to this whole thing. But it's not going to be suddenly, it's there, it's gradual. Even when we were in China giving our class, they were telling us, we know something's happening. We can feel it. Things are different. They know it. So it's hard to define. But the new earth, I've had so many people say, well, we have to die to get there. No, you will take your physical body with you. But they'll say, well, what about my family? I don't want to leave them. I get tons of emails. What about the animals and all of that? Everything is going to continue just like it is. I've had some that say, should I sell my house? Should I get rid of all my belongings? No, you continue life the way you always have. It's just you'll notice things are different. But when they ask about their family, I'm afraid they're not going to go It's an individual thing. Everybody has to make their own decisions. But the ones that are not vibrating at the right frequency will not go. They're the ones that are going to be left with the old earth, with the violence and all of the trauma and the disasters. That's the old earth. But they can't change their frequency fast enough, and a lot of them don't want to. They want to stay with the old earth. They want to stay in the drama. I think it was Japan, wasn't it? Oh, we did classes. We were home by Christmas, but we were 6 weeks in Beijing, Tokyo, Taiwan, and Australia, giving classes in each place. And I had a lecture before the class with the translators. We were in Tokyo. And this was an American woman living in Tokyo. And I was talking about the new earth and how wonderful it's going to be as we move over there. And she stood up and said, "Do we have to go?" I said, "Well, most people would want to go because it's going to be so beautiful and wonderful. I mean, you don't want to go?" And she said, "No, I want to stay with the old earth where the demons can play with my mind."
As far as I'm concerned, she can stay over there.
I was thinking, well, if that's what you want, you're welcome to it. But I told her, well, if you don't have to go if you don't want to go. And she goes, "Yay." So we got all kinds of people. Now, if they want to stay with the negativity, with the drama, they can have it. But the new world is going to be so beautiful and wonderful, and it goes further down the road, your body will change. At first, it'll be like it is now. It's going to take a long time, but it'll eventually change, and it'll be light bodies, energy bodies. And they said, "You noticed your diets are changing." You notice that? Because one thing, if you want to change your vibration and frequency, you have to get away from heavy foods. That holds you to the earth, especially heavy meats. And so that they are always saying, eat fresh fruits and vegetables, live foods. You can have chicken and fish, but the heavy meats, beef and pork, the vibration is so heavy it holds you down. And they said, have you noticed you want more liquids? Because they said it'll eventually get to where we're switching to liquid diets. This is how you can tell something is definitely happening. Your diets are changing, your body is changing what it wants. And a lot of people, because I have the radio show every week, and a lot of them will call in and they'll say, I wondered why I was wanting to eat more smoothies and that kind of things, vegetable smoothies. But they said eventually, once we are over into the new earth, we won't eat at all. But I think that's further down the road.
Can I interject something?
Yeah.
Something that they're downloading right now. Some people, because they have a little issue when she says, oh, it's going to be so beautiful, it's like promising paradise or promising the Garden of Eden or whatever, and it's like we're looking for this beautiful, wonderful, far-off land coming up. And they were saying, do you know why it's going to be so beautiful and so wonderful? I said, it's because you're creating it and you're doing so without fear. Okay? So it's what we are. Okay, thank you. Because they're constantly reminding, it's not out here, it's here. We're already here. You have got to get that. We're already here, it's already done, and it will be the world that you create. Because this is where we are now. We're creators. We are co-creators. We can do anything.
Remember, you create your reality.
So, there.
Okay. Back up to where I was then. Oh, and when I mentioned this at places in some lectures about not having to eat anymore, I think it was in Sweden. And this young girl came up to me afterwards, nice, thin, pretty, blonde girl, and she said, I've never eaten anything my whole entire life. And I wished I could have had more time to talk to her, because I'd like to know more about how her body was operating. But then it wasn't too long after that, we were in India, in Pyramid Valley, and where they have the largest man-made pyramid in the world. And we're having a conference there. And I mentioned that. And one of the other speakers said she hadn't had anything for 9 years. She hadn't ate for 9 years.
She was from Australia, so probably many of you know her. I don't remember her name. Okay, thank you.
But she said she had found out there were at least 30,000 people in the world that don't eat anything. Some of them are called breatharians. They live off of air. That's what Guy was bringing up. And even the ETs don't eat. They get their nourishment from light and from the source. Because I used to say, well, where does the light come from? They absorb it through their body. And they said it comes from the source. It comes from God. So eventually it gets to the point you don't need to eat. But I think it's going to take some of the fun out of it. We do like to eat.
That's just it. We've made eating such a social thing, a fun thing, and so we'll have to shift our ideas about eating.
But that's what I mean. It shows it is happening. But that's supposed to be down the road after we're there. This is why it's going to take many years of adjustment. You can say what you think. We've told about the old and the new and the layers in between, if you want to talk about that.
I've said it before. I'm not feeling an inclination to do it, so.
Okay.
It's okay. If somebody asks something, if it comes up, it'll be fine.
But if
Sherry
there's a
Sherry
whole lot.
said it beautifully. Sherry said it beautifully, and so it's like there's nothing to add to that.
But it's in my book called 3 Waves of Volunteers and the New Earth. I've got everything that I found on the New Earth, but there's constantly more questions coming up. So I asked them one time, they said, we can't tell you exactly what's going to happen because we don't know. This is the first time in the history of the universe that an entire planet is going to shift into another dimension. So we don't know what's going to happen. And they said the ETs, all of them are out there watching. This is the greatest show on earth. Can we pull it off? So nobody really has all the answers until it happens.
Because we're constantly creating it. We are the creators of this experience. So it's whatever we want it to be. That's what's exciting. So how do you want it to be? Do you want it to be dramatic, or do you want it to be cool, sailing the waves, whatever?
Okay. All right, we got a question over here. I've got one here. She has the mic,
I have it
okay.
here.
But you can ask questions about anything. It doesn't have to be the New Earth. It can be
It's
anything.
hard to stop there now. I got all new questions on that, but I wanted to ask you about God. In your early books, you mention a lot about God and us all being a part of God and so on and so forth. And then in one of your more recent books, it might have been Convoluted number 4, you said the aliens told you there is no God.
Oh, I never ever said that. They are closer to God than we will ever be.
I must have read it wrong then. Okay, I'll go back and look for that. Thank you, because I do like that answer anyway.
I don't know where that came from, but it didn't come from me.
Okay.
Because didn't I just say they live off of light?
Yes.
And I asked them, where does the light come from? And they said, the source, which is God. They cannot exist without him. They are closer to him than we will ever be. They trust him. They know exactly what's going on.
Then I misunderstood.
I sure hope so. No, they are love. The ETs are the ones that I've been contacted with for 27 years. My book, The Custodians, is my 25 years of working when I wrote that book. But no, they believe in the source. That's the one who tells them what they are supposed to do. where they're supposed to go and create life. They are very, very close to him. So they would be angry at you if you say they didn't believe in him. Okay.
Yeah, hi Dolores, I have a totally different question. Out of your many sessions that you did, was there one particular one that was kind of life-changing, stuck out, or that you can share with us?
One that stood out?
Well, one of the many.
I've done thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands. It's going to be pretty hard to pick one.
That was life-changing to you. That was a really...
Well, my ones in the very beginning of my work were the most, because that was when I was starting out and learning how to do this and finding out the possibilities that were so limitless. Those ones in the beginning, I think, were the most, they affected me the most, especially the Jesus material. Because that was one of the first things that I got. The first book I wrote was about the Jesus and the Essenes. And it was a total departure from the Bible with the missing years and what it was really like, and his association with the Essenes. And after I wrote that, I went and did research. Now, when I write a book, I research it to death. I read so much. I never do it while I'm doing the sessions. It's only afterwards, and I'm writing the book. And I went to the university library over here in Arkansas here, and they would get me books through interlibrary loan. I read every book ever written on the Dead Sea Scrolls. And then I found out a lot of it was just repetition and conflicting each other, going back to the same source. But I had to know that in order to write the book, because I had to find out what they were saying, was that being contradicted. And at first I didn't want to write that book because I said, I am contradicting the archaeologists and what they found. But I said, I've got to get this material out. But I mean, that was extremely exciting. I worked with this woman for 3 months to get the whole story, once a week, and she never remembered anything that ever happened. But after it was done and the book was out, and I did get a lot of criticism from scholars, but then it was years later I found out Pierre Duval is the one who was doing the original excavations of Qumran, and he's the one that came up with all these theories. I found out later most of that he made up. So my findings were closer to the truth than what the archaeologist was saying. But that takes a lot of, I don't know what you want to say, determination to write a book knowing that you're going against what they're all saying. But that was an extremely beautiful book to write. Because I guess that was one of my, if you want to say, life-changing, because I consider my work time travel, going back into history and finding out what really happened in history. That's the exciting part. And I've done that in so many of my books. And after that, then it just becomes more and more and more of the same. But that was the beginning. Then, of course, the contact with what? Well, Hiroshima, too, yeah. And I found out that was history nobody knew. That's why I say I'm the reporter of lost knowledge, researcher of lost knowledge, because I keep finding things nobody knows about. Even with Hiroshima, we were just in Tokyo, and we were talking to the Japanese there, and they don't even know their own history. They have no knowledge of what happened when the bomb was dropped. And when I wrote that book, I went to the microfilms of all the old newspapers at the university, and I kept finding out things that I didn't want to know, that we didn't need to drop the bomb. It was an experiment. And all these things I was getting, I said, this is what I got to write about? I said, this is going to really disturb a lot of people. But I guess it's because I've always been after the truth. And later, after I wrote that book, they came out with movies and documentaries that everything I found was true. So this is the exciting part about my work. That one, and then of course with Nostradamus, I wrote the 3 books on him, that we had a contact that had never happened before in any form of hypnosis. It was to actually travel through time to be there. That's when I first found out about simultaneous time. But a lot of the things I didn't know at all then, now I know a lot more about them. And I can understand what was happening. But in those days, I didn't know any of these concepts. And I kept saying, you're messing with my belief systems. You're throwing in things that I don't understand. But they said, you have to spoon feed you. They can't give you everything all at once. You couldn't handle it. It'd be too much for your brain. It would overwhelm you. So the information I'm getting now, I could never have handled 30 years ago. So they said, we have to spoon feed you. Give you a spoon of this, digest it, then we'll give you another spoon. They can't give you the whole loaf of bread at one time. Then after a while, it just all becomes common. You understand it and you know it. And you're on to the next mystery, the next concept, the next theory that you'd never heard of before. And that's where it went into the Convoluted Universe books. But it's a slow process of accumulating knowledge and then just going with it. Well, Legend of Star Crash, was the beginning of the Indian races in the U.S. And after I wrote that, I spent 3 years researching in the library on Indian legends, trying to find something that would correlate. But then I found out that the church had destroyed a lot of the information that the Indians had. A lot of it was oral, but they were forbidden to talk about it. So a lot of that was lost knowledge. So that, to me, I've got to get back lost knowledge.
And why is that, Dolores?
We talked about that on the first day when we had our reunion with the practitioners. They wanted to know about my past lives. That I was there when the Alexandrian library was burned. And I know one woman at one conference, she said, well, are you have to be determined to rewrite the whole library? It's the compulsion to get back the knowledge that was destroyed. That's why I'm still writing more and more books. And by getting all these sessions, I get a piece here and a piece there to put together all of these lost information. Because that's my job, I guess, to get it back.
That is your mission, if you so wished. You took it, apparently.
Apparently. Because when I would spend months with one person to write my books in the beginning. But then as I got more and more into the therapy, I only see the person one time. So if they want to get a concept or a theory through to me, I might get it through one person. And usually toward the end of the session, after we're through with the therapy, they'll come in and they'll say, you need to know this for your next book. And they'll give me a theory or a concept I have never heard before. And then they'll go back to what we were doing. Well, then maybe a week later, I'd be on the other side of the world having another session with someone. And it would happen again. And they would extend what they'd already give me more information about that concept or that theory. So it's like you have all these pieces of puzzle. My job is to put them all together, and that's what the Convoluted Universe books are all about. All these pieces that I've gathered together for concepts and theories. I said, well, if I don't know it, it's blowing me away. Maybe other people haven't heard of it either. And it keeps getting more and more complicated. When I was at the end of Convoluted 3, I told them, well, I guess you've told me everything there is to know. There's nothing else left that you can tell me. And they said, oh, no. There's more, there's a lot more. But I ended that book, and they gave me a couple of months where I was just doing ordinary sessions. Then information started pouring in again, and I had enough for convoluted 4. Now I'm just about got enough for convoluted 5. It keeps coming and coming. It pours out of my clients. So that's my job as a reporter. I've got to accumulate this and make sense out of it and present it. Because they keep saying, it's time. It's time you had all of this knowledge back. It's time for you to grow, to evolve, and that's what we're doing. We're in a state of evolution, to evolve and grow. That's what it's all about. This is what the new earth is all about, growing, changing, becoming better. We couldn't have understood this before. It had to be taken away so many times. There were at least 3 different civilizations that had to be destroyed because they misused the knowledge. Atlantis was not just one of those. There were many others where they had to destroy the whole civilization because they were misusing the knowledge. And they could have destroyed the world. And this is in the books too. It talks about the different ones and what happened and how close they came. In one of them, they created a hole in the ozone layer. And that sounds familiar, doesn't it? Sometimes they do this to say, we're warning you, this happened before, don't let it happen again. But in that civilization, whenever the hole in the ozone layer came through, it burned parts of the earth. And this is what created the Sahara Desert in those areas. And they said life will never be formed there again. But they always left enough people to repopulate the world and get it going again. But they always had to start over again from scratch. But so they said now there's no time to do that. We are at the point we could destroy the world. But it's not time, there's not enough time to rebuild the whole civilization. Because they know we're going into the other dimension. So they said now we can have this information, but we have to be very careful what we do with it. Because we are sitting on that point, what the scientists are doing. Yeah?
Well, in the past, it was always for elite few. It was just certain people could have the information. And they keep saying now it's time for the masses to have it. And it just came to me, that was because it was a few people that had it before, that's how they abuse the power. When it's everybody has it, see, you won't abuse it because it's a normal thing. You know, there's nothing, we'll all do it. So there will be no abuse. That makes sense. That was just a revelation, it just came in.
Because look in back through history, you were killed, you were burned at the stake, or you were hung for
how
having
many in here
any
were burned
kind
at the
of
stake
hidden
before?
knowledge.
Yeah, how many? Yeah, a lot of people here have been burned, right? Yeah.
But we're back. Okay. But down through history, anybody who they had the secret mystery schools because they had to keep it secret. It wasn't for the masses. And if they found out about it, they would kill them. This is the real thing that the church did with the Inquisition. Didn't have anything to do with witch hunts. They wanted the knowledge that the Gnostics had, the ones like the Essenes at Qumran. They wanted that secret knowledge for themselves, the church did. They couldn't get it. They tortured them. They did everything to try to get the secret knowledge. They died rather than give it up. So I mean, in the past, we've died for this kind of information. But because they couldn't get it, then they started the witch hunt. We will kill everybody who has any kind of information. Because the witches were nothing but natural religion is all it was. It was the first religions, and it was a religion of nature. Where do you think the idea of the devil came from?
There.
The god Pan. That was the witches. It was the god of nature. You know, he was half goat and half man, and he had the horns and he had the hoofs. He was just a god of nature. but the church turned him into a devil-type figure. They had to create fear and change the whole belief system at that time. So the witch hunts were just to get rid of anybody who had any kind of secret knowledge. That's been that way down through history. And so many of us have been there, done that. We've had the knowledge and it was destroyed because of ignorance and people not understanding. So now it's coming back. I speak a lot at ashrams with the swamis, mostly the Sivananda group. They have ashrams all over the world. And when I was speaking in the Bahamas, and I talk about these kind of things, first I wanted to know, as a Swami, is it okay if I talk about these things? I don't want to go anything against your belief systems. He says, you just say anything you want. So I was talking about a lot of this knowledge. And afterwards, we were leaving, a group of the Swami students came over and they were all sitting down in front of him and talking to him. And they told me the next day what they were talking about. They were asking him, is what she's saying true? And he said, yes, this is not new information, it's new old information. But it was always reserved for those who spent their lifetime studying, hiding in caves, hermits, living alone so that they could learn this knowledge. It was not for everybody. It was for those who spent their whole lives trying to get knowledge, like they do. They go in Nepal and stay in the caves. But they said now, they said she is bringing it back for the people. It's there for everybody to know. It's no longer secret knowledge. This is what my new book is about anyway, that I'm going to be, it's going to be out by the end of the year. There was a session, one of the students had, they were talking about in the class, where the man went back to a lifetime where he was a keeper of secret knowledge. And of course, the young man wanted to know, well, what kind of knowledge was I responsible for? What was the secret knowledge? And the SC, the one we work with, the subconscious, it laughed and it said, you can find it on the internet now. Just Google sacred geometry and all of this stuff comes up. It's not secret anymore. But back then, they would die to protect it. So this shows we are getting it back. We're changing, evolving. We can't stop it now if we wanted to. Look at the computer, how every time you turn around, it's changing. Everything is happening right now. This is a very exciting time to be alive. With all of these things that are going on. But anyway, it's old secret knowledge and it's bringing back now. And like she said, with so many people knowing it, what are they going to do about it? It's not just a small group that they can go in and burn their villages and try and destroy them.
Right, that, or if they have it, the ones that got greedy and had the power thing, then they abuse it. So that was one thing, or they kill them for it. Now it's a common thing. I mean, it's just a matter of taking it, of just accepting it, and not taking it, it's accepting it. Because it's there for anybody. It's just, okay, yeah, I'm open to that, let it happen.
Of course, there's a lot of people that don't think it's any good. They think it's still, we shouldn't be delving into these things, but it is becoming common. When I started out, you couldn't find any books on this at all. That's why I think it's exciting to see how it has changed. When I began writing my books in the 70s, there still wasn't anything out. So I've seen it change and evolve. Now it's common knowledge. Okay, any more questions? Right here. Who's got the microphones over there? Okay, we'll bring it over here.
Thank you for taking my question, and I'd like to you mentioned that the children that are being born now are coming in with new DNA. And I've actually raised 3 children. They're 19 to 27 now, and they were born with different DNA, I believe. But what I'm seeing is that in this room, we're talking about this new knowledge and so forth, and it's common in this room, but I'm finding out in the world outside of this room is that the small children in the school systems and in going into the doctor's office and all of that, they're really taking a beating by being in the old structures that are the school systems and the medical systems and such. And so I'm seeing, I study the children, I'm writing about the children and so forth, but there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of really stressed out young children, and their energy systems can't really seem to handle the systems that they are currently in. However, the parents of these children don't have the knowledge that's in this room, a lot of them, and yet they're still taking the small children to the systems where the kids are getting stressed out. And so me being one studying the children, I would like to know what you see as a really beneficial environments for children to be in. What sort of systems should they be in? Because for some kids, it's not school. 6, 7-year-olds really having a hard time with that. So I just wondered if you could share what your visions are on that.
None of it.
Okay.
So you're gonna, I'm sorry. It's distorted like that, it just goes everywhere for me.
It's fine, but just...
What's the question?
I will tell you, but just before I tell you the question, have you noticed the shift in homeschooling? See, that gives you, that's a clue right there. Okay, it's about the new children. And I'm going to really condense your statement, okay? Basically what she's asking is a lot of these new kids are still being put out in the archaic structure that's not, and they're really being stressed out. And what is the best environment probably for these kids to grow and develop?
Okay, because I speak at these conferences for the new children. I haven't done so in a long time. But they told us, now I say they, I mean the ones that come through the people I work with, because I don't channel. Everything I write about is from my cases that I work on. But we have an author that we have published called Nikki Patello, who has a whole book on how the care and feeding of the new children, I guess you would say. And she calls it Star Children.
The name of the book is Children of the Stars.
Children of the
Yes,
Stars.
she calls them Star Children, but it's Children of the Stars.
And she was just on the History Channel. But it has to do with these children and their special abilities. Because I don't know if you've been watching the news. They have some that are 9 and 10 years old who have graduated from college. And many of them are forming their own organizations and their own companies already. But a lot of the organizations they're forming have to do with the taking the care of the children of the world. You can see what they're doing. And they had one show, they had 5 different children who were only 9, 10, who they're doing things that adults can't do. One of them had invented something in the medical field that the doctors hadn't even thought of before. And there was another one, there was a whole new invention that they've come up with. Their minds are so advanced. But you know, yeah, the archaic school system keeps wanting to push them down and keep them in the box. And that was what they said, because I was at a conference trying to educate the educators, to let them know the children they're working with now are not the same children that we're used to. There's nothing wrong with these kids. They do not need to be put on medication. In fact, there was something on TV, it was on the news a few years ago, where they came out and said, the scientists have come up with this now, that there are over 300 million, it was a huge million children that have been misdiagnosed with ADHD. There's nothing wrong with these kids. They said the only thing wrong is they're bored. And they said, why couldn't we have figured this out over the last 20 years, this huge jump in this supposed to be ADHD? How can something jump that big in only 20 years? It's impossible. They said, why did we overlook that? The answer was simple. These children are not like the normal children. So they said, that's why you have to treat them differently. And they said, the only thing wrong with them, they're bored. And when I was at these conferences, they had panels of these kids, and they said that, why do they keep repeating things over and over again? We get it the first time in the school, the classes. We got it the first time. And they'll say the teacher will ask them for the answer to a question, like a math question. They'll give them the answer. The teacher says, how did you find that? I know it. That's not good enough for the teacher. But this is what we have to recognize. They have tremendous abilities and knowledge that is already there. And we're trying to pigeonhole them back into the way we were all taught in school. So they said, these are kids that are going to have to be treated differently. A lot of them are being homeschooled, but they said to offer these kids challenges. Even in classes, give them something different. If the rest of the class is behind them, give them another assignment, give them another project to work on so that they don't get bored. That's why they act up, is because they're bored. And they said, even if you've got a kid like that at home, give them a challenge. Even if you give them something to tear apart and put back together again, you've got something to keep their minds going. That's what they said to do. Give them challenges. Don't push them down. And definitely don't put them on the Ritalin, because that affects their vibration and frequency. And I got in a lot of trouble for saying this at one lecture. Somebody really jumped on me. You can't tell people to take them off of medication. I'm just telling you that they said it's not necessary. These are special children. They're the hope of the world. This is the gift to humanity, are these children. And you watch the TV, you're going to see more and more of it. This one program was talking about how they are already making big changes, these children. And they're all over the world. Okay, where's the mic? He's got. But maybe that'll help you some anyway. But we recommend our author's book, Children of the Stars, and it's in our catalog.
It's probably in there on the
It
table.
probably is. We have all the books out there by Nikki Patello. And it's really good at showing you how to work with these children.
I have a very difficult sessions with people in their 40s that they use and abuse synthetic and natural drugs in their lives along many, many years. On my own knowledge and experience, I know that some of these plants, natural plants, have been used in their natural environments, tribes, and ancient cultures, as to open people to connect to themselves or to higher selves. But that's different. That's like how it was used to. But I see that they do cause damage to people, or at least that's my feeling, in a way that they change the natural ways ourselves to connect. I don't understand very well how it does it, but that's my feeling. I would like to know what Dolores' experience or knowledge is about these kind of things, and as to have a clue how to deal when these cases come from forward.
I got part of it talking about abuse with the
Right.
children
No,
or
no,
with
no.
adults.
Adults, 40 people in their 40s.
I know
he's
what,
found-
every time I do a session, they say the same thing. Go ahead and answer.
Has to do. He says basically people in their 40s, so it's probably a wave of something there, that you're that's happening. He's found a lot of abuse of synthetic and natural drugs. And you're just wondering.
That's a way of escape.
Yeah.
And that has caused problems for me to do the session because I know that this person have been affected by that use. So it's not easy to get them connected.
Sure. He said it's affecting, like he has a difficult time working with them in sessions because of that.
I know, I work with drug addicts and prostitutes and alcoholics too. But yeah, it is harder. But it's a form of escape. They're not happy in their life, so they're using this as trying to get away from reality. Any kind of a drug addiction or abuse is like that, when it's gone that far. But those are the most difficult cases to work with. I think this is something that should be saved for the class rather than because this is a question dealing with my technique rather than for general questions.
Are you going to be in the level 2?
Yes.
Okay, we'll deal with it.
We'll cover it in level 2. Okay. Who next? Okay.
So my question goes back to the New Earth. My question goes back to the New Earth scenario. Everyone is going to ascend at some point or another, my understanding. And the people that don't ascend with the New Earth, that stay on the old Earth, and I know, I think I've read in your books that volunteers stay or to help. I have no challenge with frequency, vibration. I'm a second wave volunteer, and so I play with that stuff all the time. But I've always felt like I'm supposed to stay and help. And I don't know what is this the end of it? Does it happen all over again? What happens? Or is that a loaded question?
This is difficult because all I hear is a lot of reverberated sounds. Go ahead.
No, that's a matter of interpretation. It's how you're interpreting that. Okay? Okay, anyway, she's, goodness, okay.
See, she gets answers too, so she's good at this.
Anyway, her question is about the shifting again, New Earth. And those, okay, everybody's ascending if they choose to do that. And but she's a second wave. She knows this. She energetically, she knows all of this. But
you're an observer.
Okay.
You're here to just generate energy.
Right, and she knows she's here to help, but she keeps feeling like she's supposed to stay and help. And so but see, it's interpreting your...
But you're over...
Yeah.
But does this scenario happen all over again? Do people volunteer to come down and help the old Earth arise?
No, this is a one-time thing.
This is it. It's all over after this?
No, until the Earth decides to go into another dimension. I mean, this is it. This is the first time this has ever happened. This
has happened in the history of the universe.
So, yeah.
And
so the Earth is reincarnating.
Sorry?
The Earth itself is a living being. Right. It's reincarnating into another life form. So it's only going to happen once in how many millions and millions of years?
Yeah, I really liked, I think I saw Sherry walk in a while ago. I really liked how she put it. And because this is how I always felt. It was, the Earth is going to do this with or without us. This is on the Earth's life plan to shift and ascend and do these things. It's our choice if we want to go with it, if we want to have the experience with her. And if we're going to do that, then we had to change our vibration to be able to move with her. So that's where all these things come into place, and we have to do things. That's where the volunteers were called in, was to help humanity, not Earth. She was going to do it with or without us.
Yeah, and I might not be using the
because they said Earth is going to do it, and she would just be happy if human beings didn't go at all.
So the people that
they said
shift,
we're like fleas on a dog. Because look what we've done to the Earth. So she would just be happy if no human beings went at all. So, but if we want to go, that's why we have to change our vibrations and go with it. But it's definitely, it's time for it to move and change its vibration, so we can't stop it. So we want to go along, we just have to change too.
Okay, I don't know if this is your question, but what I'm getting is that once this is done, then you get to make the choice whether you stay or not.
Yeah, and I guess
Because the
it's about
volunteers
people
are
that
just
stay.
here. The volunteers are just here to provide the energy to help with all of this. And a lot of them don't want to stay. They want to just do one-time thing and then get out of here. They want to go back where they came from. So if you're here to do your job, you just do it, you know. But it's a very important time in history. And we have tipped, they said they tried this 3 times before and they didn't work. They couldn't get the critical mass. So now we have, it's like the 100th monkey syndrome.
Well, of course we have, because it's done.
They said now it's hundreds of thousands of volunteers have come in all over the world. I meet them everywhere we go, every country. And that means we are doing it. It is done. Okay. Who's got the mic? Okay.
Okay. When we try to regress a person or heal a person, try to get into the subconscious, we have Mr. Stupid popping up, so we cannot get to this subconscious. You're the one that gave up the term Mr. Stupid. Okay, so I am wondering if Mr. Stupid is someone of these archons. I've learned about these archons, that they are in the 4th dimension, and they project misery into the human mind, and that's what they live on. Could it be Mr. Stupid popping in? That is an archon.
Mr. Stupid is ego.
It's the conscious mind.
It's just you. It's who you think you are. It's just like, it's little me. I call it little me. It's ego. It's not who you really are, and it's who you think you are. It's one that thinks it knows everything.
Yeah, because in my classes, I call it the stupidest part of the human being. I call it Mr. Stupid.
Right.
Because your conscious mind thinks it knows everything. Its ego thinks it knows everything, but it doesn't know anything.
Now, have you found out about the archons? They project mystery into your mind. How can we get rid of these archons?
What?
Okay, Archon, I don't know, I haven't heard of this. It sounds like a fear control thing to me. You just don't believe in it, and then it can't happen to you.
Well, what's she afraid of?
Okay, she's saying some of Archons, and they come in and they inject misery and all these things into the brain.
You inject misery. Yeah. Nobody else is doing it but you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, nothing has control or power over you unless you believe in it and give it to it. So that's
nobody can harm you unless you allow it, and nobody's injecting misery in your life except you yourself.
And where does that come from?
You're giving your power away to something else, rather than taking responsibility for your own life.
Exactly. And where does that come from? Fear.
Fear.
Fear. That's the biggest thing that we have. You gotta let go of fear. Gotta let go of it.
They have told me in many, many sessions, fear is not real. Fear is an illusion. Fear is for entertainment purposes only. The only thing that is real is love. But because you're on earth and we are the lowest vibration, the densest, the heaviest, we want to have these adventures, we'll do it. But if you're getting fun out of it, okay, but you're not learning anything.
I heard something recently, and it was like it put a whole new shift on all of this. I mean, of course you know this. I mean, free will, right? That's that free will to believe in fear. We are so free, we can be in bondage if we want to. See, that's how it is. We are so free, we can be in bondage. We are so free, we can scare ourselves to death. We are so free, we can do anything. So you just have to know you're the one doing it.
That's what they said. Nobody's ever doing anything to you. You're doing it all to yourself. very thing you're afraid of, you create. And I have found in my work, the thing you're most afraid of, eventually you're going to have to face. That's what it's all about being here. You have to face it sooner or later and conquer it.
Our greatness.
That's what life's all about. You come to Earth to learn emotions and limitations. And it's all about lessons and learning. What did you get from it? What did you learn? Of course, the new ones coming in don't have this. It's the other ones of us that have been caught on the wheel of karma for thousands and thousands of years. To get over that idea that the fear, you create the fear. And they did say, in order to go to the new earth, you have to let go of fear. Because that's one thing that holds you on the karmic wheel. That there's nothing to be afraid of unless you create it. If you want it, that's what they said in one session I had. Somebody was talking about what she was really afraid of, and they said, look what a powerful being you are. You created this whole fear structure. Why didn't you use it to create something beautiful rather than wallowing around in something to be afraid of? She's always saying, we are great and powerful beings. We just forgot. Okay, who's got the mic? Okay.
Well, you were talking there about the new earth, new heaven. My arm suddenly went up, and I don't know why I raised my arm. But I feel compelled that people are missing the new earth because they think it's a separation from the old earth. And they don't understand it's simultaneously the new earth and the old earth working together. It's a change in your heart and mind, not a physical change. And when you operate out of your heart and mind, vibrations will pull you to the right people, to the right places. It's like going to San Francisco. You're going to Chinatown, it's all Chinese. You can learn Chinese, you can move there, you can stay there, or you can leave and go back to San Francisco. It doesn't matter. But that's what this new earth is going to be, is your vibrations will bring you to the right people, the right place, the right time. And eventually that vibration will carry over, and those people who haven't made that move will decide to come to Chinatown with you. So quit looking for a separation and understand unity of all things. Now, does that sound right to you?
That's a statement.
This is something I've understood for a long time, and I don't know if I'm right or not.
No, I think it's a good analogy. I think there are 3 people in here that needed to hear it just like that. At least 3 people, yes.
Thank you.
So,
Okay.
That's why things are said in different ways by different people, because some people need to see it in different ways. They don't get it
He had
otherwise.
his hand up here in the orange shirt. Right here.
My question is to do with the illusion of time. And I've had experience of this during with a client when I was doing a hypnosis session. And I would be interested in your comments for the audience. A client regressed back to where she was a girl in 1700-ish, around that sort of time period, somewhere in Europe. And she was having a birthday party. Now, this conversation is going on in English so I could understand her, but I asked her to say happy birthday in the language of the country she was in. And she said something in a strange language to me. And I pretended I didn't hear her. I said, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Could you repeat it? She said exactly the same thing. And then she said, everybody around me is laughing at me. I said, why? Because I just said happy birthday to myself. So the conundrum is, I'm in 2013 as it was, and she's in like 1720, and I'm affecting something that's happening in the past. So that is so we talk about time not being linear. So I'll be just interested in your thoughts on that.
Have you read the Nostradamus books yet?
I've got them. I haven't got to them yet.
You'll see things like that happening there too. Okay. He's talking about, in a session he did, he's talking about time. He's asking about time. And this actually is about simultaneous time. Okay. a session that
When
he
I
did.
started out, I didn't know what simultaneous time was. Now it keeps, I know now, but I didn't know back then.
A session he did, the person went back to life in the 1700s. And she was at a birthday party. She was having a birthday party. And he just asked her to say happy birthday in the language of that. And so she said it, and he's
I got bits and pieces of that, but not the whole
Anyway,
thing.
he asked her to repeat it, and she said it again, and she said, everybody's laughing. He said, why? He said, well, because they're hearing me say happy birthday to myself. And he's like, well, that means that he's influencing her. From here, he's influencing her in her time. So he's wanting you to...
Oh, you don't know how many cases I've had like that.
Right.
Eventually, they're going to be written in books.
Anyway, he would like you to...
I used to wonder, am I a little voice in their head when we're doing this, or are we actually there, or what? It's a phenomenon we don't understand. But I had one that hasn't been in a book yet in my early days, where I spent quite a few weeks on this case because it was a fascinating story of a man who was a minor composer in Vienna at the time of Bach. And so we got a lot of information. But with him, he couldn't figure out what his voice was coming from. And he said, I've looked all around this tree and I can't find anyone. Where are you coming from that you're talking to me? And it was so funny. We set up such a humorous relationship with this man. And the one time at the end of it, I said, can I come again and speak to you again? He said, just don't come at night. I might be entertaining a woman. And in another part of it, we came in on it, and he was laughing and laughing, shut up, shut up, shut up, and laughing. And he said, what's the matter? He said, wait a minute, let me get outside. So he went out, and he said, now I can talk to you. I was in the coffee house having, drinking with my friends, and if I start talking to you in there, they wouldn't understand. So wait till I get outside and I can talk to you. So sometimes I wonder, am I a little voice in their head? And I've had them, sometimes I think they can see me. So you don't know, there's all kinds of weird things. It actually is going through time. But that's when they get deep enough, they really become that person and you are interacting with it. Have you ever read 5 Lives Remembered, my first book I wrote? Remember in that, my husband was doing it, and he was with Gretchen in the castle, and they had to escape from the castle, and she was terrified. You'll come with me, won't you? You'll come with me. And he said, I'll be with you. And she felt safer having him accompany her in it. So we kept, later people said, well, it sounds like you were there with her. So how do we know? We don't really know what's going on. But this is all going back to what we teach anyway. But don't worry about it. It happens, and I always think it's funny when it doesn't.
We talk about linear time, right? And then we sort of nip it back as though we are spending time.
Oh,
Right.
yeah,
It's-
there's all kinds of explanations if you want to try to explain it. I just enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah, just don't try. But I really want you to talk about the one, because the one when it happened in the Nostradamus material, that's when my whole world shifted. Because, I mean, that was one of the times my whole world shifted, but that was one of the earlier times. But it was when you were working with him on the quatrains, and you were doing this back and forth, and he's like, wait a minute, like he's, okay.
Oh,
you know what
that
to do
was
now.
in volume 2. We
Yeah.
wrote 3 books on that, because it was the first time in history all of the 1,000 quatrains of Nostradamus were interpreted. But yeah, by volume 2, I would read them to him and he would explain what they meant. By volume 2, he was saying, oh, wait a minute, so you say that again? And can you spell that word? And it was like, who's writing these? What's going on here?
And I think, wasn't it in something?
Well, I looked when I was doing the research. I read every book that were written on Nostradamus, And I found one where he was talking about how he was asked how he was getting his visions. I get them from the voices from beyond the limbo. No. So I said, whoa.
Because this was back in the 80s, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
the beginning of the 80s when I first had that.
When this was coming through and it was going, what is going on here? I mean, it shook everything I could even think. So.
What's happening? And if you read a lot of my books, you're going to see this happening, interaction with the person in the other life. Oh, and one that's not written yet that I'm working on is called The Horns of the Goddess. Has to do with magic in the Middle Ages. And I was speaking to them. They had like a witches' coven. It was during the time of the Inquisition. And they were very suspicious of everybody because the church was trying to kill them. And I was talking to this woman, and she was afraid to give me any information. And I said, well, I'm going to come back and talk to you again. And she said, when you come back again, we will conduct a test, and I will see if I can speak to you. So the next time I had a session with her, she said, we have tested you, and it's all right, I can speak to you. I said, well, what was the test? I'd like to know. They had a big cauldron of water, and they saw visions in the water. And they said, oh, she's from the future. She can't harm us now. So you can tell her anything you want. So this is in a book. This isn't one of the ones I'm working on. I'm always working on several books at one time. That's what's fun about it, though. You know, we don't know what we have stumbled into. That's why, to me, it's the excitement of finding new information.
It's like a convoluted thing to me. So. All right, it's over here
Nobody
somewhere.
can explain this stuff. You just do it.
Okay.
Who's got it?
Right here, okay.
I got it. Okay, I'm curious about the GMOs that...
Whoa, pull it back from your mouth. It's really loud.
I'm curious about the GMO situation and the correlation with all the ingredients they're putting in the foods. And you've quoted that you can heal yourself, correct? You heal yourself. I love food, so it's hard for me to pick everything organic. And I believe that if I eat these foods, that I'm pretty much invincible from the harm of these ingredients. Do you think that's a good idea? What are your thoughts on that?
Did you get it all?
No.
Okay. And before you try to start answering, let me finish it, okay? Because I know you'll jump on part of it. Has to do with the GMOs and the foods and everything. And you are saying we can heal ourselves of anything. So because of all those things in there, she feels that because you can heal anything, then you can make yourself pretty much invincible to anything they do, you know, to the foods. And is that a safe approach to have to it?
They have addressed this in several of my books. But there's some things, see, even with medications, they don't want you to take it, they'll make it so it doesn't work and it will just pass out of your body. So they're always taking care of your body. And if you are taking something that's not good for you, they'll try to neutralize it and get it out of your body. But sometimes if you got too much, it will accumulate in your liver and your kidneys, and they have a hard time getting it out of there. They said, you don't know what you're doing to your body. They said, we really have to work overtime. It takes as long as 6 months sometimes to get some of this junk out of you that you have put in there. But they can neutralize a lot of the chemicals that are in things. But it's better, they said, to stick with organic if you can.
But she said it's hard because organic, it can be hard to get a lot of organic.
I know, but they said that's the best. But they said the best foods for you are live foods, which is fresh fruits and vegetables. Organic if possible, but still that's the best. They have made so much changes to our body that what we're eating now, we couldn't have ate even 10 years ago. It's because of the changes. They have been making our bodies adapt as it goes along. But don't abuse the privilege, because they said you get too much and your body can't handle it. It's like poison.
And I'm being reminded about...
Yeah, her book.
Not to, but because I've gone around and around about this myself, because it's like, okay, everything...
See, Julia was a nurse for 20 years.
Yeah.
She's had a lot to do with all of that. Yeah?
Well, and it goes... Because I'm actually having a situation myself right now with GMO, okay? And that may be the reason. I mean, we all go through and have our own experiences for reasons and for lessons. And so they're reminding me, because I thought, hey, the body can handle anything. That's just how it's made. It can do anything. Your mind can do it. And I've had some situations, and someone recently told me, because I mean, I'm looking at all these other, what is it trying to tell me? I mean, that's our met thing. That's what we have to do. What are you trying to tell me? What's the message? All I get is balance, balance, balance. You're out of balance, out of balance, out of balance. I'm like, okay, what do I do with that? You know, I don't know what to do with that.
How do I get in balance?
Right, what is it? And so I'm looking at it, and here again, I'm going, but this is part of sometimes what we do. We go out to come back. I'm looking at all these things outside of myself. What can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And then the latest message is it's gluten. And I'm like, okay, this is from someone else. And so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm eliminating gluten. Because I'm like, wait a minute, but my belief has always been we can adapt to anything. And that I firmly believe that. And that's why I was never concerned about foods. And actually, it was told in a session that the light works, I mean, as you start elevating your vibration, you are above the vibration of those things, so they will not affect you. So I firmly believe that. But then this person was telling me, he said, but you don't understand. The gluten in these is like 50 times what it was not too long ago. So it's like they're accelerating it faster than possibly. I don't know that yet. This is what I'm working on myself with. So I still...
Faster than you can get rid of it.
Right. I still want to believe that we are adaptable and we can adapt to anything. But see, then it's reminding me, remember what you teach is if you choose to take something on, it is a message, right? So there I have to go back. It's coming full circle. I have to come back to what are you trying to tell me? What do you want me to know? So it's still this is something I have to work on. It's for myself. So if you are having a situation, you can look at those things, but you still have to go to the underlying message. You chose that for a reason. You chose to take it on because you didn't have to. You chose to take it on to tell yourself something. So what is it? And that can be a challenge sometimes. Mine is, if anybody else gets an answer, but it's balance, 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 okay? It could be I have to figure out how to balance everything that's happening. I don't know, yes. So I hope that helped. There's not a clear-cut answer.
I'm going to run to the restroom, and you can hold down the fort. I'll be right back.
She keeps doing this to me, okay?
Yep.
All right.
I was going to wait, but she can answer the questions. I'll be right back.
That's why she has me up here, so she can go to the restroom when she needs to. Okay, all right. Over here. I'll do the best I can. I'm not Dolores, but I'll do my best. Mm-hmm. Yoshiko, is that you?
Yes.
Yoshiko came from Japan, everybody. She was our translator in Tokyo.
I hope all of you understand my English. So I just want to say hello, all of you. こんにちは. So many people are asking about New Earth. And I came here to bring some information about New Earth. Okay? So I have friends with ET contactees, a Japanese old guy he's like 68 years old age. And he has been working with ET over than 40 years. Such a long, long time. And he is, his contact is not spiritual contact, but physical contact, right? So he's very, very famous in Japan. So this was started from 40 years ago. So he was trying to, you know, work hard to let people know about ET existence and contact. But many effort didn't make happen. So 20 years ago, one ET started to talk to him directly. So this ET, his name is Shelet, and he is planet. You know the planetary union, right?
Which planet?
Planetary union. It's not a single
okay,
planet.
planetary union. Okay, got it.
Yeah, yeah. So he's the highest commander of planetary union, and this ET was used to have connection from ancient Japan. So we have many evidence about ET language and stuff.
Okay.
So the pyramid has made with ET, but not only ET, but also human being also work together with ET and had made pyramid in the ancient time. So this is the source of my information, So Dolores talks about the source, the energy of God, source. So ET is using the energy from God's source for the creation, and then make that physical forms happen, making that. So my contact level is that the area that they can use energy, manipulate energy from the source, and bring into the earth. So this is a reason why my friend's contact is very special, because he also can download energy, and he can use the energy to many things like healing, and also many levels, right? Because ET use energy and make anything, like every kind of things. So since my friend has been working with ET over than 20 years, and he has been taking a boat, UFO, and then stop the earthquakes with energy levels. So this is the reason why few years ago, Japan had very big, earthquakes, right? And also we had many volcano explosions. And also a state of Russia has, storm from the universe was going to hit meteor, was going to hit the earth, but some UFO was, crushed it. So my point is, there's many contactees working with ET directly, and then save the earth for the earthquake or meteors or many stuff. So that's what he's been doing. So so my friend is, because working with ET for such a long time, so he also have many information from the ET. And so ET really wants to help us. They really want to help us, right? That's what.
Right. That is, well, that's the volunteer program, and that's why the volunteers, see, they can communicate, and that's how they get the energy here.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. Yes. Mhm.
Okay. So he wants to help us. So, but us is maybe going to be some trouble, right? In the future, we have many earthquakes and problem with us. So, in order to make help human Earth people, they made new planet in another galaxies. And my friend has been going many times already, been to the new Earth. Dolores called it new Earth, but he called it second Earth. But second Earth.
Actually, what you're describing sounds like what Sherry was talking about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's another
so,
planet created.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he was saying that, the new Earth, the second Earth, he has been to many times. And so he talks about everything was made by energy. So people, some people was going to go to the second Earth. And the ET was choosing to do it, right? So I think the story of new Earth and old Earth and spirit is actually people are going to the second Earth.
Right, the ones that do not want to shift with this Earth into then they are going to the other Earth. Yeah. Or another place that has karma, has whatever they want. Yeah. That's great. Mm-hmm.
Let's leave the other ones a chance to ask questions.
My question.
Back here. Okay.
Okay, you do have a question? Okay, all right. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
So my question is, do you have same kind of information about New Earth? And also, he wants to meet Dolores to hear about your story because he never had same level of story from before. So when Julia come to Tokyo, he wants to meet both of you and talks about New Earth. And my next question is, Dolores, do you want to go to taking a boat and go to the second Earth?
Okay, her questions were, have you gotten similar information to what she was talking about, being another Earth is being created out there, and then the new Earth, and then the second Earth. And then her second question was, which Earth do you want to go to, the new Earth or the second Earth? So
the second Earth you're talking about is a totally different purpose. It's not the same thing as the new Earth we are moving into now. As in some of my earlier books, they talked about they had a planet that they were cultivating or getting it ready for humans. If necessary, if we were going to destroy the world, they had to have a way to save humans, and they would evacuate them there. And they said it would be similar topography, but not the same as Earth, but they would feel at home there, and that they would prepare it for those who wanted to go there if things got so bad on Earth and we were going to destroy. But that's a different thing altogether than the New Earth scenario. It's another planet that's being prepared out there. My book, Keepers of the Garden, is the one that talks about that one. And there's a whole lot of other things that are going on in case we need that. But we're going into the New Earth because we don't want to destroy this one. But it's there just in case. They're covering all their bases, I guess you would say. Because I got that information back in the early 80s. So it's being prepared for a long time. But that's a whole different thing. Okay, who else? Who's got the mic now? Over here? Okay.
My question is do you have clients? It sounds like you read some people and you find great information that you may want to use in a book, or other things are channeled. Do you have people who say, well, I just came to you for the one-time visit and maybe don't want to be hypnotized over and over again to get new stuff? And do these clients also know just their past lives, or do they also know all the other information you seem to channel from ETs or your guides? And also, do you have people who you've worked on that in the past, that do you revisit them and check on them to see that they're not overwhelmed by the information that came through? Lots of questions.
She's got about 3 parts to that question. What was the first part?
The first one I think is funny because it's have you read many of her books yet?
I've read a few. I haven't read.
Okay.
Okay. That explains it.
Well, it's just that I think this was the first one. If somebody doesn't want, I mean, the hypnosis sessions, if they don't want to keep being revisited and keep going back to all these different lives, can you just have one session with them?
All I have is one session.
That's what she does. Those were exceptions to the cases.
The ones where we were working on a continuing story, it was in the early days of my work. And I had the person conditioned, we could just go back again and again and get the whole story. But as I've evolved and we began to have more, I've done more and more people, and it turned into therapy for healing, I do one session and that's it. Just one session, everything is covered in that one session. So I don't have time anymore to keep working with one person.
I think the second one was, are they able to, in one session, get their information, all the things that they need?
That's what it is. You have one session, you have all the answers to all of their questions, all of their problems, and you solve all their physical problems in one session. That's all it takes. I never see the person again.
Oh, the third was, do you ever follow up on them?
No.
And see how they're doing, or see if they were overwhelmed by the information?
You're not supposed to. They're supposed to go on with their life. If they're having any problems, they contact me, and they never do.
Well, rarely.
Because the way this technique works, everything is resolved. They're not overwhelmed. It's all resolved and put into place. So they go on with their life. That's the main thing. You don't want them to become dependent on you. I don't want them to be dependent on me as a therapist. I want them to go on with their own life. So when the session is over, they go on. Of course, some of the information might be overwhelming, but it's for them to figure it out because they're coming out of their own mouth.
Well, and we know that they are never given more than they can handle.
They've told us that many times. The therapist never given more than they can handle, and the the client is never giving more than they can handle.
Okay, this will be the last question.
The last one? We've got 5 minutes or more.
Well, you've been taking, that'll be one question. So.
Well, okay. Because I've got 20 after here.
Let's just see what, I think one question will probably do it.
Well, we'll see. Okay, who's got it?
Right here.
Dolores, I'm one of your practitioners, and most of the practitioners are aware of some trends that are happening in our sessions. But would you speak to that, to this group, as to the changes that are occurring from when you started the method and over the years, and what's happening now? Because I think that's a beautiful summary of how her method has really grown and blossomed.
That's a good question, and that will take that time to answer it. Okay, she's a practitioner, as you know.
Yeah,
she's asking
I know
if you can kind of give an idea of how the sessions, you've seen the trends of the sessions change over the years, over the course that you've been doing them. If there's been any trends, if there have been any changes in how they've.
Well, I've talked about that already.
No, you haven't.
So they started out in the beginning. It was history. It's going to past lives. You're time traveling. You're going back into time, and you're actually there. So the only ones I write books about are those who are in a time in history when something important is happening. Because everybody's not going to have an exciting life. They'll be a farmer. Most of them are called digging potatoes lives. They're out in the field, and their lives are very dull and boring. But there's something in there that has a therapeutic value. But I began, it was those kind of lives. Then gradually it evolved into lives where we were getting the healing, and I was coming in contact with this great power that works through the client. And so they're able to have healings, and then the information began coming in. So instead of doing history and exploring one past life, we're getting all this other information that evolved into the Convoluted Universe books. Sometimes I would like to go back to the history because I like that. But I guess I'm not going to be able to. It just keeps evolving and moving on into the theories and the concept that the world needs right now. But it's changed a lot since I started. We've been doing the classes now for 12 years. And I can see how they have changed too. So, is that answered?
Well, there's a little bit more.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are people going, what kind of past lives are people going to now?
Oh, well, we've discussed that, yeah. Used to be, it was all past lives. They go to other lifetimes, other countries, other time periods on Earth. Then it gradually began to change, and they weren't. They began going to lifetimes on other planets, other dimensions. And then we began getting a lot of these volunteers coming in. So now I get very few past lives where they're going to where they're living a life on Earth. It's all lives on other planets, going back to God when they're created. And it's a whole different kind of past lives, and that's what the volunteers are having. So I can tell when somebody comes in, goes back to a past life where they're on Earth, I know they've got karma that has to be finished. So it's a different kind, but the majority I get don't go to regular past lives anymore. They just want to dump all this information on me. I don't know if that's... We got time for one more.
One more, you can do a summary. You can just do a summary statement.
He's got somebody back there, he said. Patrick wants something to say. Okay.
Thank you. I'm glad this worked out. Well, it's actually two questions, but they're really quick, so I think we'll be able to get them both in. The first one is, I was curious about if when the people go to the other Earth where they still want to do karma and things like that as Gaia moves forward, are they going to remember anything about being here? Are they going to have any kind of awareness of the transition or the change that's happened, or is it going to be are their memories going to be erased so they really they feel like that's the only place that they've ever been?
Okay. The ones that go to where, okay.
Yeah, but what about it?
The ones that go to where, if they want to still have karma, have the drama, have all that. So we'll say old Earth for lack of anything better to say. The ones that go, okay. Are they going to be aware that they've done this, or is it just,
Where aren't going to go to the new Earth?
No, are they going to be aware that they're in a different place, that they're in a whatever?
Will they have any awareness that things have changed?
Yeah, will they have any awareness that things have changed?
Oh, well, not really. They said they will be where they're happy. They like the negativity, they like the drama, and that's where they want to be. And they have no interest in changing and going on further. And it's not our job to change them. They have to, if they're ready, they will. They said eventually everybody will get there, but some of them sooner than others.
All right.
So No, they won't even be aware anything's going on. They're still stuck in the muck and the mire in their kind of life.
It kind of goes along like how you have to think about it. You know, a lot of times we get caught in our everyday to-day world and we don't realize we're over here in this shifted
We're evolving.
We're evolving. But when you think about it and you become aware and you're actually looking at it, then oh yeah, that happened. Well, if they were to ever do that,
but they have no
would
interest
realize,
in it.
Yeah, they usually aren't. That's usually they're not into that. So.
Now the second one actually has to do with, you know, when we were talking about the transition and the possibility that we might destroy the earth, and things are kind of like, we're not sure yet which way this is going to go. I remember this experience, I think it was around in the late 80s, maybe around 1987. But I was walking along, I wasn't doing anything special, I wasn't meditating or anything like that. But I just remember having this, it was a question, and I felt like it was a planetary question that I was voting. It was like, you know, I was voting in on something, and I was asked, are we just going to end this, or are we going to move forward? And I remember emphatically saying, yes, I want to keep going forward. Let's keep going. You know, and it was almost like I was weighing in, and I could tell everybody was part of this. You know, is this just going to end here, or are we going to move forward? And after that point, I remember there were many significant things that happened, like the Berlin Wall came down, communism radically changed, so the whole Cold War situation radically changed between the United States and Russia. So there are many significant things that shifted after that, I remember. Is that something that you're aware of at that time period, or have you heard of any other experiences like that?
You were given a time period, and Sherry gave one in her talk too, about it was a time period when that happened, when it was like the point of no return. Everybody had to make their choice, and that's what that's sounding like. Do you remember, were you given a time period when that happened?
I don't know if they ever put a time on it or what.
Well, they said there was a point. It was like where everybody had to make their choice.
Well, there's always a point in everybody's life where...
No, I mean of the planetary, when all this shifting is like, they had to make a choice. Are we going to let it, are you going to move forward? Are you going to go with this? Are you going to do something else?
I don't remember an exact time period.
Mm-hmm. Sherry was given one. Sherry, are you in here? I was thinking, you gave a date in your talk, didn't you? It was a rough date? About the choosing, where you had to choose if you were going to go or what you were going to do. Was that the November 9th, 2009? Was that? But then you're saying something a little bit different about the station of the Earth, isn't it? It's like, are we going to let it be destroyed, or are we going to go forward with it and let it ascend?
Right.
So,
this was this was definitely prior
earlier
to
than
2009. This was around 1987, and I can place it there because I was in college at the time. But I was just walking to class, and I just remember having, this question. I remember weighing in, and I just felt like this. It was the planetary vote. We were all voting, and I was emphatic. Yes, let's keep going.
They did say we have already gone past the point of letting it destroyed. It won't be destroyed now.
That's what it sounds like from what he had in 87.
Right, yeah,
that was when the vote was made.
It was, because I definitely feel like we've gone past that point where it would be destroyed now, but this was at a point when we were deciding if we were just going to end it or if we were going to...
In the 80s is when a lot of people began getting into metaphysics and writing metaphysical books. That's when my first book was published. Right. So something was happening in the 80s. But I think
the harmonic convergence. And
they did say we have moved past the point when the Earth will be destroyed. That's because of all of the energy that's come in by the volunteers to stabilize the Earth and to help it.
Okay, we have to.
Okay.
We need to stay. Okay.
Thank you.
I think that's it now.
Thank you all so much.
What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves, physically, emotionally, and spiritually?
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to DoloresCannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS.